I caught my wife with another man. And it wasn't just a one-time mistake, it was a pattern of betrayal that shattered our family. But here's the twist, she's not the only one who's strayed. Welcome to my world of hurt, where love and lust collide, and the lines of fidelity blur. Subscribe to our channel for the raw truth about infidelity and the real stories that'll keep you on the edge of your seat. Grace Howard grinned as she drove her Audi onto the highway out of Raleigh, knowing she'd be home a few hours later than expected. She blamed the infamous Raleigh traffic jams. The delay was worth it because of Mike, almost 10 years younger than Grace and an excellent lover. Handsome, smart and an engaging conversationalist. Mike had the stamina that her husband, Daniel, who had just turned 45, lacked. Daniel relied on experience and knowledge of Sai's body to keep their sex life enjoyable. After sex with Mike, it was nice to come home and fall asleep in Daniel's arms. Grace felt she had the best of both worlds, and her smile grew wider the further she drove from Raleigh, the less she thought about Mike. He was fun, but Daniel and their daughter, were the one she truly loved. Grace wanted to spend time with them. Now that her libido was fully satisfied, she knew she'd be patient and loving with Daniel when she got home. He was a wonderful person and exceptional husband. Emma was athletic and smart with many friends in sports and school activities. It wasn't unusual for 2 or 3 of her friends to hang out at the house on weekends. Grace enjoyed being with young women, and they seemed to look up to her. Grace always made sure to dress well. She held an excellent position at an architectural firm and was respected in the community. She and Daniel were well known both individually and as a couple. Daniel now ran his family's successful construction company. He was never too busy to attend Emma's events at school. Grace loved sitting next to Daniel, watching their daughter play or perform. She noticed more than a few other fathers sneaking glances at her, and many mothers looked at Daniel as if he were prey. After several hours on the road, Grace pulled into her garage and found Daniel's pickup missing. Unusual and unexpected, her mood began to change. The least Daniel could do was be home to meet her after a grueling business conference and a long drive home. The house was empty. As Grace walked into the master bedroom, she couldn't shake a sickening feeling. It was almost lunchtime and no one was home. Emma had school and Daniel had work, so they had to be back soon. Grace unpacked before taking a shower. Thinking about Daniel and Emma's unexplained absence, she remembered her phone was off since dinner the previous evening. Lost in thought on the way home, she hadn't realized no one was calling her. Daniel might have been angry because she never called to thank him for the string of pearls he gave her. When Mike stoked her fire the previous evening, she completely forgot about everything else. Drying her hair with a towel, she turned on her phone. Daniel congratulated himself again on executing a simple but brilliant plan to please and surprise his wife. He'd known about her conference for months. Grace attended twice a year, and this time it fell on their 15th wedding anniversary. A few weeks earlier, Daniel was approached about building a large vacation home for a family in Raleigh. Once the business meeting was done, Daniel expressed an idea that had formed in his head. On the 8th of next month, our anniversary, my wife will be attending a conference downtown. I want to surprise her with a nice dinner at a restaurant near her hotel. I also bought her a pearl necklace to present at the table. My daughter could organize this for you, the client offered. She's in college and knows all the good places in the city. She can ensure the necklace ends up in your wife's hands. Daniel continued, I have obligations here and traveling this far to be ignored seems foolish. I have another idea. Suppose I buy your daughter and her friend dinner if she agrees to sit near Grace and send me a live video on Facebook. I'd love to see Sai's surprised look when she opens the necklace box. The client agreed, giving Daniel his daughter's number. Daniel then planned a party at home inviting his parents, Sai's parents, his brother and sister-in-law and Sai's younger divorced sister. They all expected to see Grace open her anniversary gift in real time. Daniel's 16-year-old daughter, Emma, was there with several friends. Daniel set up the TV to watch the video, making sure no sound would transmit from their side so everyone could comment freely. When Grace appeared holding hands with a handsome young man, Emma's friend asked, "Who's that?" "Didn't you say she'd be with a colleague? I don't know who he is." Daniel admitted he seems like a close friend. Sai's father just grunted, frowning at the scene. As the couple took their seats, everyone gathered around the TV listening to the conversation. "It's nice. Your husband paid for our dinner," the man said with a grin. "I'll do my best to make this anniversary unforgettable for you." "Better than your honeymoon. You better order a steak," Guest replied with a grin. "You'll need strength." "My honeymoon was epic. Did you have a lover then? Or did your husband ring the chimes?" the man asked. "Daniel did a great job. Thanks for asking." Grace replied, "You're the only lover I've had in 20 years, not counting Daniel." "Luckily for me," he slowed down, "he'll give you a better anniversary tonight than most women," the man said with a grin. Sen's sister suggested, "Maybe we've seen enough. Grace doesn't know we're watching or listening. Let us watch a bit longer," Daniel said, red-faced. Grace called her companion Mike as they ordered food. Another waiter appeared with a wrapped package. Look, Daniel must have sent me an anniversary gift," Grace exclaimed, tearing open the package. "Isn't it beautiful?" she asked, showing the pearls. "Lean towards me," Mike said, fastening the necklace and quickly running his hands over her chest. "Your husband is so romantic. You're lucky to have some man," remarked an elderly woman at the next table. Mike agreed she is a romantic husband and a handsome boyfriend. Grace glared, but the older woman laughed. "I gave you a pearl necklace last night." "That looks better," Mike joked, kissing Grace. "Husbands give jewelry. Lovers give climaxes," Grace said with a grin. "Sorry, I can't do it anymore," the young woman filming whispered, turning off her phone. "I should have stopped earlier." "I'm so sorry. I'll erase everything." The TV turned off. Everyone sat in stunned silence. One of Emma's friends was the first to speak. "It's late. We should go." Emma, with tears in her eyes, asked Dad, "Can I go with my friends?" "Of course, honey. Drive carefully," Daniel whispered. "I don't know what to say." San's mother began, "Grace loves you. Daniel, don't do anything rash." Daniel's other guests repeated similar sentiments. After a few minutes, Daniel made his decision. "I need time alone to think. Please see yourselves out." When everyone left, Daniel began packing his suitcase. Grace, seeing her messages, felt her heart sink. Her sister and mother demanded to know about Mike and why she was friendly with him. They insisted. She broke Daniel's heart and Emma was upset too. There were no messages from Daniel. Grace needed to find out what Daniel knew and what he suspected. She decided to call her mother. "It's me. I turned off my phone last night. What's wrong? You've lost your husband, alienated your daughter, and disgraced your parents. Do you even care enjoying that pearl necklace from your boyfriend?" Her mother granted. "Daniel gave me pearls for our anniversary." Grace countered. "Why does this upset you?" "We saw your boyfriend's pearl necklace video." Her mother said. "Daniel invited us to watch. He booked a table for you and a colleague. We saw the whole vile story. Your husband treats you like a queen. Husbands give jewelry and lovers give Kleenexes. You said that. How did you see that?" Grace asked, shocked. "Daniel asked a friend's daughter to live stream. He wanted us to see your reaction to his gift, then call and congratulate you. Looks like this might be your last anniversary with Daniel, mother. You know I love Daniel. That guy means nothing. It was just something to pass the time. These conferences are boring." Grace insisted. "Daniel will feel better knowing you don't love that guy and we're just bored. I assume you left your puzzle at home." Her mother replied sarcastically. "How can I convince Daniel? He's the only man I love." Grace asked. "You didn't even convince me." Her mother said, "You've got work to do." After talking with her mother, Grace thought about her situation. Her family had seen and heard everything. Remembering her conversation with Mike, Grace realized how bad it was. She called Emma. "Where are you?" Grace asked with Morgan. "She's consoling me because my family broke up." Emma replied, "We're not breaking up. Please come home so we can talk." "Where's your father?" Grace asked. "He moved to the lake house." Emma answered, "I don't think he wants to see you. He was so happy last night, inviting everyone to watch you open your gift. You tore his heart out. Please come home." Grace repeated, trying to think of what to say to Daniel. She looked around the house, noting items missing from Daniel's office and their bedroom closet. Grace fought back tears, realizing how empty the house felt. She began cooking dinner for Emma. By the time Emma walked in, Grace had prepared a meal. Emma was sullen and only speaking when asked a direct question. The next morning, Grace decided to confront Daniel at the lake house. She drove over early, hoping to catch him before he went to work. When she arrived, she found Daniel slumped uncomfortably on the small couch, passed out with numerous empty beer cans strewn across the floor. "Daniel, honey, with incredible life, honey, we need to talk. Wake up, please," Grace pleaded. Daniel slowly opened his eyes and groaned. He stood up and headed to the bathroom without saying a word. Grace decided to make coffee while she waited. A few minutes later, Daniel returned to the kitchen fresh from his shower, and Grace placed a mug in front of him. "Daniel, I'm sorry. This happened. I love the pearls. It was a wonderful gift." Grace began trying to keep her voice calm. "It's a pity. I didn't know you would share everything with the family. It would have been great if you told me about this plan expletive you." Daniel spat out, infuriated by Sai's attempt to make him the bad guy. Grace was hurt by Daniel's response. In all their years of marriage, he had never spoken to her so disrespectfully. She realized this was evidence of the pain she had caused him. "That won't help." Grace answered calmly, "Tell me what I need to do to fix this. You are the only man I have ever loved, and that hasn't changed. Together we can deal with this. Tell me what problem exactly you want to solve." Daniel asked calmly. Is the problem that I surprised you with an anniversary gift in a nice restaurant where I booked a table for you and a friend? The problem is that my clients agreed to send a video of your reaction in real time. The problem is that I mistakenly decided you would appreciate this gift. Explain to me what the problem is, so I understand what you're talking about. You know what the problem is. Grace insisted last night you saw me with Mike at the restaurant. I know you have dinner with others from time to time. Why do you think that's the problem? You know perfectly well why this is a problem. Daniel said quietly, I told you I was going to dinner with Sue. But I actually went with Mike. You overheard our conversation and found out we slept together. This is the problem we need to work on. Just to be clear, Daniel continued, is the problem that I, along with your entire family, overheard your conversation, or is the problem that you had sex with another man? The problem is my behavior, admitted a blushing Grace. You were just trying to be nice to me on our anniversary. You didn't do anything wrong. Okay, we're not making progress now. Tell me why you cheated on me behind my back. For how long and with how many men? Is Emma my biological daughter? Is there any chance her father was the postman? There's no need to be vulgar or offensive, said an emotionally stunted Grace. Of course, Emma is your daughter. Mike has been my only lover since we started dating. Your comment about how many men I've had, and Emma's father, being the mailman, was just cruel. I'm having a hard time understanding your logic. Daniel countered, you had added you're a cheating exploitive, but you insist there be a line drawn as to how big of a exploitive you are. You want me to be polite and understanding, not to mention gullible, when you tell me that you're one man's exploitive. Are you proud that you haven't cheated on me that often? By the way, how long have you been sleeping with my cat? How often? This was the third conference we've slept together at, Grace admitted with tears in her eyes. Besides you, he is the only man I've been with since we got married 20 years ago. So that's 2 nights together at each of the 3 conferences, said Daniel. Have you ever had sex with him anywhere else? No, Grace stated. This happened a total of 6 times, and I deeply regret it. I owe you an apology. Are you saying that a young stud like Mike was only capable of 1 time a night with a beauty like you? Asked Daniel. He never had you more than once a night. Who cares? Asked a discouraged Grace. We probably did it 3 times every night. Now for the big question. Daniel announced, why did you have sex with another man? Was sex with me so thankless, so mundane, so pathetic that you needed to find a younger, more satisfying lover? Of course not, Grace replied. I was bored and he pursued me tirelessly. It turned out to be weak. It's not about you or sex life. It's my vanity, maybe a midlife crisis. He doesn't mean anything to me. I swear. It's clear. You had sex with a man who meant nothing to you. Daniel repeated, did you have sex with Mr. Jenkins, the guy who lives down the street and wears those ridiculous shirts? Of course not. I barely know him and I find him repulsive. Grace replied, so he means nothing to you. Daniel continued, you just told me that you sleep with men you don't love and who mean nothing to you. Jenkins fits that description. So why don't you have sex with him? I didn't say that I sleep with every man who means nothing to me. Grace explained, upset. I slept with Mike because he is handsome, cool and successful. He was following me. Do you want to say that you will only cheat on me with handsome, successful men who run after you? Apart from a few of these guys, are you a faithful wife? If you don't love the man you have sex with, doesn't that mean you don't love me? Daniel asked. No. I'm telling you that I made a terrible mistake and it will never happen again. Grace said with feeling. I love you, but not Mike. How do I know this? Daniel asked quietly at our wedding and several other times over the years. You promised to be faithful to me. You are a beautiful woman. Handsome, successful men will always pursue you. I can't trust you. I can't even give you the great sex you love so much. Don't ever think like that, Daniel. I love sex with you. It's special and makes me feel loved. Grace replied. How did Mike make you feel that you kept coming back to him? Daniel asked softly. Daddy used. Not like a mother or wife. It was the wrongness that got me hooked, not love. Grace replied. What did you do with him and how? Daniel asked quietly. What does it matter? I love only you. Grace protested, clearly embarrassed. I have something to think about. Daniel said. You stand here and tell me that you love me, not him, but you had dirty sex with him. It's hard for me to accept that you are willing to do much more for a person who means nothing to you than for the person you love. You haven't told me to please your manhood below the belt for a long time, Daniel continued. I wasn't so much against it as I thought you'd lost interest. Yes, what kind of married guy would want to get this from his wife, especially when she gives it out like candy? Daniel asked. You told me on our honeymoon that I would be the only man you loved you, and Mike must have had a lot of fun with me. Everything was wrong. He never talked about you. I would never allow that. Grace insisted. You seem to have forgotten that. I heard several minutes of your conversation. This exploitive insulted me several times and you went along with it. Remember how I slowed down that he will give you a better 20th anniversary than most wives. You didn't object, did you? Why are we even wasting time here? Daniel suddenly demanded. You found someone new. I accept. It looks like you should too. Why pretend that you want to stay married? It's obvious that you didn't enjoy being my wife. And let's not even talk about bad sex. You're beautiful, successful and smart. I bring nothing to the table. It was only a matter of time before you started looking for something better. Congratulations, the video game subnauticulations. You found it. Don't let the door hit you in the ass on the way out. Daniel, we can't let this discussion end this badly. We have to discuss everything and find a way back. Grace tearfully begged. You can ask your lawyer to talk to my lawyer. It's over between us. Grace, I'm going to divorce. You left me no choice that day. Grace went to work but was found in the break room by an angry Sue. Why did Daniel ask me about going with you to Raleigh for a conference? You know very well that I stopped attending them after you decided to spend your nights with that guy from the Chicago office. I don't want you to use me as a cover for your infidelity. Did Daniel call you? What did you tell him? Grace asked dejectedly. The truth. I didn't go to the last two conferences. I was under the impression that you told him we were going to share a room and spend time at the conference together. Sue complained. I don't like being used like that. Won't be a problem anymore. Daniel learned everything on this trip. I think he's going to divorce me, Grace admitted. What other outcome could you expect? Sue demanded. No decent man could accept this level of disrespect. I was too damn stupid and self-centered to even think about Daniel finding out about this. Grace answered. Frankly, he moved out. Don't you think you made a choice when you slept with that guy from Chicago? Sue asked a bit softer. I'm sorry. You lost Daniel, but I warned you this would happen if you kept this up. It wasn't me who told him. If that's what you're thinking, I know. Sue, I owe you an apology. I abused your friendship. I'm sorry. I didn't listen to you. I don't deserve a man like Daniel. Grace admitted. After finding out that Grace was cheating on him, Daniel took the day off from work. He was determined to move all his belongings to the lake house before Grace returned home. He didn't want to listen to her reasons and excuses for cheating. He hated the thought of life without Grace, but he knew he could never forgive her for her callous disregard for his feelings, nor her ambivalence about loyalty and respect. Her unexpected visit the next morning simply revealed a huge emotional chasm dividing them. She didn't say anything that could help him forgive her betrayal. He made an appointment with a lawyer for the next day. The next day he was preparing to leave the office for a meeting with a divorce lawyer. When he received a new email, it was from Grace. He wondered if he should read it or just delete it. After an internal debate, he opened the letter in her typical fashion. Grace tackled the problem head-on. He felt nothing but despair as he read her message. Daniel, I know I really screwed up this time. I was so stupid to think you'd never find out and my actions would never hurt you. I was wrong. Lying and cheating destroy marriages, even if one partner doesn't know it's happening. You deserve so much more. I have never wanted anything in my life as much as I want you to forgive me, but I will not challenge any of your actions regarding our marriage. I have lost my right to participate in your decisions. I love you and wish you all the best. You are a wonderful man, husband and father. This is entirely on my conscience. I accept this truth, although I feel bad that I did this to us. You may not believe it, but I love you and always will. Grace. Daniel fought back tears as he read Sai's confession and her plead for forgiveness. It was like her to accept blame for her actions when she had time to think about the situation. She was a strong woman, requiring the best from both others and herself. He felt empty and saw no reason to answer the letter. He had nothing more to say. That morning, when Grace arrived at Daniel's lake house, her only source of information about Daniel was Emma. On Friday afternoon, Emma called Grace to say she was going to her dad's cabin for the weekend. Daniel would bring her home. On Sunday evening, Grace realized this was how her life would continue. She spent a miserable weekend thinking about how much she had screwed up her life. She had no idea how to correct her mistake, or even if it was possible to correct it. Had she completely ruined her once happy marriage? Returning home on Sunday evening, Emma looked rather gloomy. Dad decided to divorce you. He can't live with someone who has lost all respect for him. I saw him cry several times this weekend. I've never seen this before in my entire life. Do you have any idea how much you hurt him? Your boyfriend is probably a lot better than your dad. Emma said, her voice thick with sarcasm and hurt. He's not my boyfriend and he is no match for your father, Grace replied, shocked. It was a huge mistake and I deeply regret it. Your father is the best man I have ever known. Forgive both Dad and me for being skeptical. Emma replied, this isn't the first time you've slept with this guy, right? You've been deceiving us for years. Haven't you? Grace realized it was time to stop lying to her family. I slept with him at the conferences before this last one. It was wrong and I apologize. Wrong. That's putting it mildly. Don't you think, Mom? Emma objected angrily. You betrayed your father in the worst possible way. Didn't you vow to be faithful when you married him? Did you cross your fingers at that moment? So it wouldn't count. I know you're upset with me, but not as much as I am. Your father is a wonderful man and a great father. You know it. What I did doesn't mean I think less of him. I acted very stupidly, Grace admitted. Sadly, as days turned into weeks, Grace and Early spoke to each other. Her job was her lifeline. Everything there remained normal, except for Sue's cold attitude towards her. She went to Emma's school events but usually sat alone unless her mom came with her. This was the only time she saw Daniel. He always sat as far away from her as possible, and the other parents quickly noticed. It soon became known they were getting a divorce. Bonnie periodically heard fathers, both single and married, make lewd remarks and suggestions. It was obvious that the rumor of Sai's infidelity had spread throughout the community. Daniel threw himself into his business. This was the silver lining of the whole fiasco. The irony was that Grace would get half the business. His lawyer suggested several tactics that could reduce Sai's share of the business, but Daniel refused to listen. Grace works next to me and even gave part of her salary to keep us afloat. When we first took over the family business, Daniel insisted if it weren't for her, we would have nothing to share. I'm not going to deny the facts. Grace was very surprised when her lawyer explained how Daniel was giving her half of his ownership of the business a few years earlier, when Daniel was going through a cash flow crisis. The company was bought by Daniel's best friend. Ben was a silent partner who owned a third of the company. Having ceded half of their property to Grace, Daniel found himself in a vulnerable position. He owned and controlled only a third of the business. Tell Daniel, this is too much. Grace insisted to her lawyer. He was the one who devoted all his time and energy to the business. If he insists on giving me a share, tell him I agreed to 1/10 of what we own. He will maintain control without possible disputes. Daniel was nothing if not stubborn when the snow melted. The following spring, Grace became a single woman again and a third owner of Miles Enterprises. She couldn't even convince Daniel to talk to her on the phone. He completely cut her out of his life. Emma told Grace that she wanted to spend the summer between her junior and senior years of high school at the Lake H house with her father. Grace knew this was another attempt by Emma to punish her, but she accepted that she had earned her daughter's scorn. Daniel, for his part, was delighted. He developed plans to almost double the size of the cannon. Owning a construction company, he easily completed the construction by the end of July. It was now a 3-bedroom lake house, each bedroom with its own bathroom and a good view of the lake. It was a completely modernized and comfortable house. The first weekend in August, Daniel hosted an open house for his friends and neighbors at the lake. All of Emma's friends were invited. One of them brought with her an older cousin, whom Daniel couldn't help but notice. She had a striking blonde look that was complemented very well by a rather modest-to-piece swimsuit. During the day, Daniel noticed that this girl was near him most of the time. She laughed at his jokes and flirted with him every chance she got. "Well, Dad, you trying to get into a little bikini, Patty?" Emma asked one day when they were alone in the kitchen. "Of course not," Daniel protested. "She can't be older than 25 and I haven't decided to start dating yet." "She's 27 and seems very interested in you," Emma replied with a knowing smile. She asks how long you've been single, how old you are, what you do for a living, everything women want to know about potential husbands. "I just met her today," Daniel replied. "Don't even think about mentioning the word marriage to me. I tried once and that was enough. I'm not hinting at anything other than that." "She seems interested. I wouldn't mind if you dated her." She's pretty sweet and you need someone to help you forget Mom. From what I've seen, Patty is in no hurry to get married. I think she's working on her career now, but this does not mean that she doesn't like male communication. Thanks for enlightening me, Daniel joked to his daughter. This girl is too attractive to be interested in an old guy like me, but thank you for your trust. I appreciate your faith in me, S's. Company occupied the top 2 floors of an office building in the business district at the end of the same block was a very popular Italian bistro. She used to have lunch there every Thursday with a few of her friends from work. Because she kept an informal lunch schedule, she often saw the same people eating lunch at the same time. Grace and her co-workers became friends with employees of several other companies located in her building. One afternoon the bistro was unusually crowded and size group was unable to get a table. One of the employees at Benson Advertising, located on the 2nd floor of her building, invited her group to join them at a large table. They quickly accepted the invitation. After everyone said their first and last names as an introduction, the conversation began. One of the women on the advertising team was particularly attractive and very friendly. Grace found herself enjoying the young woman's good humor. She smiled as the other ladies began to tease the woman. "We don't all have a rich guy with a big house on Lake Henry," the woman Grace knew. As Mary teased, "It must be nice to wake up with the morning sun reflecting off the lake." "Yes," the young woman agreed, "especially with a handsome guy who gently caresses me. Getting out of bed is such a hassle. If this is the guy who picked you up after work on Thursday, then I can see why it might be a problem. Another woman said he looks a little older than you, but he seems to be in good shape. He has all his hair and is quite good looking. Daniel is all that and more." The young woman offered, smiling widely. "He's a really good guy and a really good lover." S's friend immediately asked the very question Grace didn't even want to consider. "You're not talking about Daniel Miles, are you? Do you know?" Daniel asked the young beauty before adding, "You have to admit he looks good. He's a great guy, but he used to be S's husband." Her colleague said, "I think we should change the subject. Don't be so dramatic." Grace insisted, leaning toward the young woman and extending her hand. "I'm Grace Howard." "I didn't catch your name." "Patty Lawson." Daniel said his ex-wife was beautiful, but I thought he was probably blinded by love. Patty admitted, "It turns out he didn't do you justice. I hope you won't be upset that I'm living with Daniel now." "I certainly can't blame you, or him for that matter," Grace answered honestly. "You are a beautiful young woman with an amazing figure. I can easily understand why Daniel likes you. I wonder why Anne ever told me anything about you." "I can't speak for Emma, but I want to say that you raised your daughter well. She is very smart and attentive and also beautiful, just like her mother. I really like it when she visits us," Patty concluded that evening. Grace questioned Emma while they were having dinner. "Why didn't you tell me that your father has a beautiful girlfriend who came to live with him? This is something that would interest me honestly." "Mom, I didn't mean to hurt your feelings. I know how you feel about Dad." Emma replied, "I'm still upset that you cheated on him, but I don't want to make you unhappy because of your bad choices. Patty is actually good to Dad. He finally seems happy again. This may surprise you, but I'm glad to hear that Ron is happy. He's a wonderful person and deserves to be with a woman who loves him, even if it's not me. I don't think she directly loves Dad, but she really likes him. She made it clear that her career comes first. For the next few years, I want to achieve great success in marketing. Aren't you going to start dating Mom? Do you keep in touch with your boyfriend from conferences? Do you think you can get along with him? Emma asked with Mike. No way, no way. He's not the person I would look for in a relationship. Grace admitted he is superficial, slightly rude, selfish and vain. I never thought of it as anything more than entertainment. It turned out that he made my life hell, although I knew what I was doing. I shouldn't blame him for my weakness. Are you interested in anyone? Emma asked. You're still beautiful. I've noticed how some fathers and teachers look at you and go out of their way to be polite to you at school events. Honestly, I think Daniel ruined me for other men, Grace replied with a sad smile. The reason for our divorce is known to most people in the area. It makes women sympathize with your father and men. Think of me as an easy target. It was probably easy for Mike, but I won't repeat that mistake again. I just don't understand how you could cheat on Dad if you love him so much. Emma was surprised. He always treated you with love and respect. Something went wrong. I ask myself this question every day. Grace admitted. I think I started to take your father for granted. I knew that he loved me and I was very confident in his love. This somehow resulted in attempts to try another man, maybe because I knew I had a reliable anchor at home. Daniel was my anchor. He was always there for me. I foolishly believed he would always be there. I could have gone a little astray and he would not have known about it, and still my devoted husband would have been at home. I pray that you find a man like Daniel when you are ready to start a family, and use my experience as a cautionary tale. Never take more than you give in a relationship. Be faithful, dedicated and honest. If you are thinking about something that could harm your relationship, discuss it with your husband. I showed you what happens when you lie and cheat. Sometimes Grace would run into Patty during lunch. She was surprised by how much she liked this woman. She also felt embarrassed that she was anxiously awaiting any news regarding Daniel. Emma didn't want to tell Grace too much about her father. As his daughter, she couldn't be privy to some of the more personal aspects of his life. Patty willingly discussed Daniel with her friends. Grace, it's obvious that you still love Daniel, Patty remarked one day while the two women were having lunch. He never says anything bad about you, but it's obvious that you hurt him greatly. I'm not here to judge you, but I have to say that I would never cheat if I were in a relationship. I find it hard to believe you did this. Everything I see and hear from you says that you love and respect him. Remember this when the flame of passion fades and you are caught up in everyday life. Grace replied, I lost my way and paid for it. Love isn't always about wild sex and great vacations. Sometimes it's deciding when to pump out the septic tank or what color to paint the house. Everything becomes ordinary, but that's normal. Daniel is an honest businessman, a caring, loyal friend and a great father. I will always love him, but I betrayed him in the worst way a wife. Can I learn my lesson? Perhaps I woke up too late. I told Daniel last night that I was accepting a position in Seattle and would be leaving in 2 weeks. Then is a great opportunity for me. I told him from the beginning that I put my career first, but I see that my news upset him. Patty said, I'm telling you this so you know what he's going through and maybe help him if he gets depressed. He's a really great guy. He's just not my forever boyfriend. I'm sure he will miss you very much. Daniel doesn't do anything on a whim. If he invited you to live with him, It means he has a very high opinion of you as a person, in addition to your beauty. At the same time, he is a strong person. I tested his strength, but he survived. He's really improved. Grace started with a small smile. He'll miss you. But he a great catch, and I doubt his bed will be empty for very long. Yes. That's why I gave you the information first. Patty replied with a smile of her own. What you do with it depends only on you. Only a week had passed when Daniel's best friend and secret partner, Ben, asked Grace to meet him for lunch at the bistro. The room was crowded, but they found a small table to the side. After the usual greetings and formalities, Ben explained the reason for his request for a meeting. You know that piece of land that Daniel bought on Route 21 near the river? I have a buyer willing to pay almost $2 million for it. Daniel bought it for next to nothing. The profit will be huge. Your third will be more than $500,000. Daniel said this land could be bought and would be very valuable. Someday, is he going to sell it? Grace asked, wondering how she was participating in the discussion. That's the problem, Ben replied. He says the company will benefit more if they offer it for a long-term lease. He would like the contract to stipulate that his company will build what the tenant needs for his business. That sounds like Daniel. Grace admitted with a smile, thinking about how businesslike and smart he was. I'm sure he's done the math and his plan will be more profitable in the long run. What's the problem? I think we need to make a quick profit by selling the land. Planning 10 to 15 years ahead is great, but I'd like to get the money now. You own 1/3 of the company. I own 1/3. Together, we could insist that Daniel accept the offer and then pay us our share of the profits. Daniel won't get hurt. Hell, get $500,000 in cash to calm any ruffled feathers. Grace felt her anger rising as she listened to Ben make his proposal. Are you asking me to betray Daniel's trust? You think money means more to me than Daniel's ruffled feathers, as you call it? Let me tell you something. Daniel would take this as a complete and utter betrayal by his wife and best friend. This is the worst thing you could do to him. Worse than his wife having sex with some young guy at a conference teased. Ben, you're his ex-wife for a reason. You've already betrayed him. He divorced your cheating ass. This is a chance to get a little revenge and at the same time get a good amount of money. Ben reasoned this expo. About a faithful wife won't fly. We both know that description doesn't suit you. I betrayed Daniel and I admitted, Grace replied in suppressed rage. I was stupid and selfish, but I never wanted to hurt him. He's better than both of us and deserves much better business partners than both of us will ever be. That's why I will never betray him again. I'd rather lose my last penny than hurt Daniel like that. I proved that I was a lousy wife and you just proved that you are a bad friend and partner. Daniel will control my share of the company as long as I breathe. In fact, I'll be making a new will to make sure Daniel gets my share after I die. You should know better than to doubt his business skills. Grace started angrily, standing up and placing a bill on the table to cover her half-eaten lunch. Then she looked into Ben's eyes. Please don't try to steal this too. Almost a month later, Grace opened the door and saw Daniel standing on the porch. She was very surprised. Daniel had studiously avoided her since the morning. She returned from the ill-fated conference. Daniel, come in. Everything is fine. Emma left a few minutes ago. If you're looking for her. Grace said, surprised at how excited she was about Daniel's presence. Right now I'm here to talk, if you have time. Daniel began entering the house that had been his for over 15 years. "Can you give me a few minutes if you're busy? I'll try another time." "I'm not busy." Grace answered quickly, "and I just made coffee. Why don't we sit in the kitchen?" "I appreciate you taking me in so quickly," Daniel said, picking up his coffee mug. "You always made excellent coffee when we first got married. I didn't even know how to cook it." "I didn't marry you for the coffee." Grace countered, "You had other attributes that I found much more attractive." "I've never heard you call them attributes," Grace said, still smiling, "but I heard you call them Smith & Wesson several times." Yeah, you brought out the big guns and I was powerless to resist you." Daniel admitted. "Patty must have you wrapped around her finger or some part of her body." Grace said, "There's some serious heat coming from. I appreciate how well you treated Patty. She thinks you're a wonderful person. Her opinion of you is one of the reasons why I'm here." A couple of weeks ago, one of her friends overheard your conversation with Ben over lunch. Patty talked about this before heading to the West Coast. She thinks your dedication and honesty have been exceptional. I have to agree. After the way I treated you in the divorce, you still flatly rejected Ben. Many women whose husbands divorced them so quickly would want to take revenge or at least repay pay. I would never do that to you, Daniel. I know how hard you work on your projects and how much they mean to you. I also know that you will make sure this land brings in much more income than Ben is looking for. He's a fool to doubt you," Grace concluded. "I appreciate your vote of confidence. Patty helped me accept the fact that you were my partner, even though I ran the business as if it were all mine. I have to give you the opportunity to express your opinion and say what you want to do," said Daniel. "If you want to sell this property and split the profits, I will agree. Ben is trying to convince me to sell it," Daniel said. "I think he doesn't have enough money. He believes that if we sell this land, then each of us will be able to get $500,000 out of business without infringing on him. Would you like this too? I think you probably have plans for this property that will bring good profits to the company and goodwill from the community." Grace replied with obvious pride, "You were never looking for a quick profit. You always wanted to improve the area and make good money at the same time. You have something planned for this area, right? I was negotiating a long-term lease with General Hospital to build an emergency care complex on this site." Daniel admitted it won't be as profitable as the luxury condominium project Ben's company is pushing to build, but it will still make a good profit and they'll have a contract to build it. This will create jobs as well as goodwill. I guess it would be something like this. Grace answered a little smugly, "You are a good businessman, but you also invest in society. That's what sets you apart from people like Ben. Thinks it's better to make a quick profit. I don't agree with this line of thinking. As far as I understand, he came to you to propose his idea and you refused him." Daniel said, "I trust you unconditionally. Daniel, you never gave me a reason not to trust myself. I will support your business decisions until the end," Grace promised. "It probably sounds strange when you already know you can't trust me, but it's true. I was thinking about how Ben is trying to interfere with your business. It occurred to me that we should buy him out. If he doesn't have the money, he'll probably listen to a reasonable offer. He will be happy and you will be able to run your business as you see fit," Grace reasoned. "I've thought about it, but I don't have the capital to make it happen." Daniel agreed. "We could sell this house." Grace suggested, "I can get a nice two-bedroom apartment for Em and me. Over the years we have accumulated a lot of capital. The house is almost paid for and you've made some major improvements. This will be enough for us to buy out Ben's share. Now that we're divorced, this is your home. Are you ready to sell it and invest money in business? Daniel asked incredulously. I don't know how soon HK closed the deal on the urgent care center. I cannot guarantee that you will get your money back anytime soon, or even that you will get it at all. Do I look worried? Grace joked. Don't forget that I was married to you for 20 years. You will get everything back with interest. If for some reason, it's okay. I owe you one, Daniel. Money will never make up for my disrespect, but it will get you away from Ben. I'll agree to this. If you come and live in the house by the lake with me and Emma, Daniel said, and then quickly added, you will have your own room with a bath. It turned out very nice. I don't think this will work, Grace answered. Sadly, it's a matter of personal life, not to mention dating and all the drama that will create for you. Sorry, I didn't think about your social life, Daniel apologized. Of course, you wouldn't want to bring a gentleman in the house when your ex-husband lives there, especially that guy, Mike. It would be awkward. I don't go on dates and I don't plan on starting. Grace replied, I stopped going to conferences and haven't spoken to Mike since that disastrous trip. It is you who will experience the inconvenience. No woman wants to spend the night with you when your ex is sleeping in the next room. If I'm around, it will be extremely unlikely that you will find a woman who will agree to move in with you, although I do not rule out the possibility. I've seen women fall in love with you. I divorced you because you slept with that guy and then I moved Patty in with me. My behavior wasn't the best example for Emma, was it? Daniel asked rhetorically. My only excuse is that I was depressed and lonely. Another man took my wife away from me and my self-confidence was pretty low. Patty was able to restore it for me. I'm sorry. I damaged your self-esteem. I wish this had never happened, but I don't blame you for falling for Patty. She is a wonderful woman. You are a single man and can enter into any relationship you want. Grace said and added, I don't think I've ever apologized properly for my behavior. It was not something you caused or created. This is all on my conscience. I truly screwed up and I'm truly sorry for the pain and inconvenience I caused. You really hurt me, Grace. I've never been unfaithful. I live for you and Emma. I went from having everything to feeling like a complete failure, Daniel admitted. Patty helped me understand that, while I may not have been the perfect husband, I wasn't the reason you cheated. You could have told me that you were not happy with our marriage or our sex life or anything. I would have tried to do better if I had known. I was just stupid, Daniel, not unhappy. You are a very good husband, a great father to Emma and a great lover. Grace said I lost my way and deserved to be unhappy. It sounds strange, than video games, but being unhappy makes me happy. I feel like I'm paying for my sins. Maybe you'll at least come and look at the house by the lake, Daniel asked. I would like to show it and get your opinion. I took some of the ideas we discussed all these years into the rebuild. I think you'll approve. Emma has a volleyball match in 2 hours. Can I take advantage of this offer another time? Grace asked, let's go look at it before the match. We can go there together, Daniel suggested, and then I'll drop you back here. Aren't you afraid that people will think we're back together if we go as a couple? You usually sit as far away from me as possible. Grace noted, yeah. I was a bit of an ass, but in my defense you exploited me in our marriage. You couldn't expect me to be cordial to you. Daniel replied, you were much kinder to me than I would have been to you if things had been the other way around. Grace admitted your settlement offer was too generous. We both know it looks like that kindness is paying off, Daniel grumbled. We thinking of selling the house to buy out Benshire. I still find it hard to believe that you are ready to do this. Honestly, Daniel, you can take anything of mine that you want. You have always been honest with me. I know that you will not harm me, although I deserve it. Grace said, let me show you the lake house. Daniel suggested to change the subject and give himself time to calm his emotions. While Daniel showed the house, Grace admired the renovation. You really did a great job. Emma's room is very large and she has her own bathroom. This is the dream of every teenage girl, Grace praised. When Daniel showed Grace the second bedroom, Grace felt it was time to talk about the elephant in the room. It's a lovely room with another amazing bathroom, but I can't stay here, Daniel. It will be too painful for me to see you every day and remember what I've lost. We will sell the house and I will rent an apartment. I'll be fine. We have to leave soon for Emma's match. Grace said, let me show you the master bedroom. Daniel urged, she's bigger than the rest. I know you'll like it. She's beautiful. You did a great job, as always. Grace praised, looking around the bedroom. That's why your business is so successful. You have an eye for detail. Would you stay with me and Emma if you had this room? Daniel asked sharply. I would still see you every day and I don't think I could stand it, Grace answered. Sadly, I didn't mean that she would be yours alone, Daniel explained nervously. I thought maybe we could share it. Grace raised her eyebrows, studying to MK face. Are you asking me to share your bed? Ever since the day I found out you cheated and I left home, I felt like crap. I miss you so much that sometimes it hurts. You screwed up big time, but I slept with Patty for months. This softened your betrayal a little, but did not get rid of it. I wonder if we can get over all this crap and try to be together again. Daniel said, I don't want to be your prey. Grace answered firmly, if you want to punish me even more, I won't do it. If I move in with you, I will be completely faithful and expect the same from you. No more young beauties in your bed. It will be just me there or I will be gone in an instant. I have worked hard to regain my self-respect and I intend to maintain it. I love you, Daniel, but you have to be completely on board or I'm leaving. No one was more surprised than Emma. When her parents walked into the gym arm in arm, she hurried to them to talk to them without anyone hearing. Mother, Dad, does it mean that VDJLA? Emma began, but Daniel smiled and nodded before she could finish her question. Emma hugged her mother and held her close as she spoke into her ear. Welcome home, Mom. I love you, but don't ever cheat on Dad again. I have a friend with a single aunt who is even more beautiful than Patty.